What is something that absolutely disgusts you, but the majority seems to be okay with? When parents constantly complain about and resent their children because of the things they have to do for their children as a parent. You had to provide food for the child you brought into the world. You had to make lunch? No way. How horrible. How dare they require you to provide them food? Probably should have considered the needs of a child before you had one. I take care of my kids. You supposed to, you dumb mother. Chris Rock. I love this bit he does, but can't always help but think the people saying this probably don't really take care of their kids all that well. Not cleaning up after yourself in public. My son would ask me why we took our things to the garbage at the movies when everyone else seemed to just leave it. I'd say because we can, and we are not animals. I think he appreciated it more when he started working at a movie theater cleaning up after the filthy messes. It's part of the service I've paid for. No, you're a self-entitled ass. I know people who have this attitude about going to McDonald's. They call themselves a restaurant, so that includes cleaning up the tables. No. Texting and driving. The amount of people with blatant disregard for human life is disgusting. It's seriously like 50% of people I see on the road. Aggressive driving. I like driving fast as much as the next guy, but don't be a pain to other drivers. You want to do 100 in a clear lane, that's up to you. If the lane isn't clear, especially if someone is already doing at or above the speed limit, and there isn't room for them to move over, pulling up 2 feet off their bumper, and trying to drive them like cattle is a dangerous peen move. Could not agree more. I live in a highly populated city and have a 35-minute commute down the interstate. It's ridiculous how many people think that cruising 18 inches behind someone who is already going 68 in a 60 and can't go any faster will somehow make everyone just magically get out of their way. It's disgusting just how many people drive dangerously, especially considering it's going to get you there 90 seconds sooner? So glad the police influence in this area is especially heavy on that highway. I strongly prefer to just set cruise control at about 2 above the speed limit and coast in the right lane, but these asshole drivers that don't consider any else make it incredibly hard. How most of the hits on the radio romanticize binge drinking and prescription drugs. I recently came to the realization that I'm alcoholic, and I started noticing this everywhere. Songs about passing out from drinking and taking care of people that have had too much, as if it's a totally normal bonding experience. It bothers me even more to know that the pop station's main audience is probably in middle/high school. Alcoholism, if not vigilantly monitored, can ruin every aspect of your life. Unchecked, you can lose literally everything, including your life. After a heavy night of drinking, I was lying in bed and put on my Spotify country station to try to fall asleep. It was then I realized how many country songs were about alcohol, the last thing I wanted to hear about. There was a country song playing on the radio this morning at the restaurant I usually get coffee at. One of the main verses something like, some folks say I got a drinking problem, but I call it a solution. And ain't no problem for me. Not sure that's the best message to be pushing at 6 in the morning. Speaking loudly in a quiet environment, and worst of all, continue and act like an asshole after stares. I paid good money to go to the Wildlife Photographer of the Year exhibition at the Natural History Museum last year. They always pipe in what my friend calls spa pan pipe music, and if anyone talks it's an irreverent whisper. And then there's 4 50-something-year-old ladies standing in the middle chinwigging at the top of their voices about Susan's colonoscopy and irritable bowel syndrome. I was gobsmacked that a group of people could be so oblivious to the fact that the ambient volume level around them was verging on monastic. Most grown-up thing I've ever done was going up to them and respectfully asking that they lower their voices, and they freaking did, and left shortly afterwards. Wow, nice. I bet your adrenaline was pumping. Advertising in general. It didn't bother me much when I was younger and watched a lot of television. I haven't even had a TV in my room for over 10 years now. I watch most stuff online and have ad blockers or just download stuff, and I also don't listen to the radio at all, so there's very little active advertising in my life. I recently spent some time at someone else's house and watched quite a bit of TV while I was there, and all of the ads were incredibly grating. and made me very uncomfortable. The idea that we're so passive to these companies trying to manipulate our behaviors, so we'll buy their awful products that we don't need, and the way they target kids in particular, is barbaric and disgusting. I was definitely desensitized to advertisements growing up, being that TV was a bigger deal than it is now. TV as in traditional TV. The fact that a show airs for a half hour, but there's only 22 minutes of real show, or that an hour and a half movie goes on for 2 or 3 hours, is ridiculous. Ever since I left home and went to college, I stopped watching TV, since I didn't have one, and started getting most of my entertainment from the internet, which meant ad blockers galore. I remember coming back home to having a TV on all day and feeling gross when ads would play. I get yelled at for muting commercials. Purebred dogs. Some of the extremes have horrific disorders at birth due to the large amount of interbreeding that goes on just for them to look a particular way because people like it. Horrific disorders such as being a modern pug. I was just about to say this. The pug and their bulgy deformed looking eyes is not cute. It's hideous. I'm gonna go with smoking. Lived in Ireland all my life and got used to it. Then I moved to Sydney for 3 years and it was pretty much non-existent wherever I went. Came back to Ireland and I would say I see nearly 10 times as many smokers here. Yeah, that's the worst part of traveling as an Australian. People smoke everywhere overseas. I'd forgotten what it was like to have dinner at a cafe, ruined by 4 people chain smoking on the table next to you, until I went to Europe. Worse than the outrageously expensive 16-hour flights you need to get anywhere. Government surveillance and their omnipresent ability to hack any computer on earth without anyone being able to do anything at all to prevent it. To be honest, I'm more concerned about massive data collection and recording every possible things about an individual by private entities. With government, I can lobby for changing laws for instance. And while stuff like national security is confidential, it only ever affects very small fraction of the population negatively. And it's a valid argument that such surveillance stopped non-zero number of terrorist attacks. Private entities on the other hand, they just want to exploit your data for their profit. It angers me to no end that, although I haven't used Facebook in 5 years, they have a shadow profile for me, and they have majority of world's people and their relationships literally mapped out. And all that data about you combined with the officially stated goal of making money off you. It's beyond me why people voluntarily give all their private data to the likes of Zuck and company. I know I'm probably going to get buried, but I hate it when I go to a grocery store and find shopping carts all over the parking lot when there are plenty of docking stations available. You're just a lazy piece of trash. Also thank you cards. I freaking hate those with a passion. I went to the grocery store last week. I parked next to a shopping cart return. I was only in the store a few minutes. When I was leaving there was a shopping cart up against my car. Not in the return 2 feet to the left. Touching my car. I don't care too much about my car getting dents and scratches. It's pretty old. But the laziness combined with the lack of respect for a stranger's property is infuriating. How everyone shows up to loot a dead person's belongings. It's horrible to watch how greedy people get when they see an opportunity. After my stepmom died, my stepsister broke into my dad's house while we were at the funeral home making arrangements and stole everything of value. Some of it was my dad's family heirlooms. She refuses to give any of it back because it reminds her of her mom. I could list a dozen more examples, but it makes me sick to think about. Have the police been contacted? And, more importantly, do the majority feel okay about this? I'm not sure I've met a single person in my entire life who would think this was alright. So many guys seem to be okay with using the toilet, usually for number 1, and not washing their hands afterwards. Completely baffles me. It's not even that you might have got any of it on your hands, but public bathrooms tend to not be the cleanest of places anyway. Who knows what's on your hands after you've been in there? People don't seem to get that you collect germs on your hands throughout the day. The bathroom is the perfect time to wash them. Sure, you didn't get crap on your hands just now, but how much stuff did you touch during the day? This is the logic-driven conclusion I eventually came to as well. Regardless of whether the act of using a toilet is especially dirty or not, your hands are constantly touching things in the world around you, and cleaning off some of that gunk just makes sense when you're in the bathroom anyway. That the US is so obsessed with work that taking days off / sick days that they have earned is looked down upon. Everyone gets that guilty feeling when they take the vacation they are supposed to have or call in sick with that 100-degree fever. It starts in school with the how dare your kids miss a day of school to go do something educational / fun. All the awards for perfect attendance. Come on, the kid came to sick some day. In so many other countries it is kind of the opposite. Why the hell do you keep coming to work? Take a vacation. They get 2 to 3 times as much vacation as we do. Kids are expected to do something with their family. I just hate the fact we are okay with people being totally obsessed with work. Think of the people you know that have weeks worth of time off built up. I remember family who had months of time that they got paid for when they retired because they just had it sitting there. I love having some time built up in case the kids get sick, but I shouldn't get made to feel guilty because someone thinks taking time off that you have is just a terrible thing. Rant over. I have 290 hours of vacation time I haven't been able to take. Not just because of work, but because my significant other doesn't have the opportunity to come with me. We are attempting smaller vacations, but it's tough. I've decided I'm going to use some of my vacation to visit my dad and canoe down the Allegheny River with him for one last hurrah. Could say frick Mondays for the rest of the year. People's hateful attitudes towards the homeless and those struggling with addiction and mental illness. Also, the lack of effective services for these people. I hate that everybody who does something hateful is mentally ill. I'm mentally ill. I'm not violent and don't shoot people up. I cry in the bathroom when people yell at me and have difficulty getting lost because I panic so much I forget where I was and how to get where I'm going. My aunt thinks the CIA is hacking her head, but she hasn't ever hurt anyone. She holes up in her house all day. As for hate for the homeless, I have none. But I don't like panhandling. I feel a trust has been broke, however, with the people who have money from untaxed income and panhandle instead of a job. Now I give money to local shelters and kitchens instead. Marijuana legalization. People pretend they want it legalized for those medically in need, but in actuality they are selfish and want it legalized for their own desires. We are headed down a path where your daily commute will be affected by stoned drivers. Attempts to make a purchase at Walmart or Subway will be hindered by a high employee, and where people will quit pursuing PhDs to get into the business of THCs. And that skunky scent, it's bad enough smelling it at concerts. I don't want to smell it everywhere. Cool thing you can foresee the future, bro. Can you please give me the lottery numbers? Don't worry, you'll be too high to remember to buy a ticket. Walmart. I can't stand their business model and the clientele they attract. The Waltons are grossly rich yet employ lowly people and keep them low by paying them just enough to be able to afford shopping at Walmart, so in the end Walmart is getting their money back. Yet, the general public feeds off shopping at Walmart. I don't blame society for wanting low prices, but the quality of the product is crap. Have some pride. Support your local hardware store, tire shop, Subway, eye doctor, nail salon, boutiques and clothing stores before Walmart runs them out of business. What you meant is have some money because a lot of people can't afford the local places. I don't shop at Walmart, but I can understand why people go there, especially in the poorer rural areas like I live in. Local mom and pop stores are pricey for a lot of things. People that have enough money to live well don't tend to shop at Walmart regardless. Pretty much any right-wing political belief. Bracing for down votes. I'm of the opinion that right-wing political beliefs are synonymous with almost every negative facet of the human condition. Greed, stupidity, ignorance, cowardice, hatred. I know I'll get lynched for this, but if I had the time, I feel like I could prove my point. I don't have the time though, so all the angry replies to this comment will have to go unanswered. Pretty much any left-wing political belief. Bracing for down votes. I'm of the opinion that left-wing political beliefs are synonymous with almost every negative facet of the human condition. Greed, stupidity, ignorance, cowardice, hatred. I know I'll get lynched for this, but if I had the time, I feel like I could prove my point. I don't have the time though, so all the angry replies to this comment will have to go unanswered. Drinking and how much of our culture seems to not only embrace, but depend on it. Drinking to excess. It's like some sort of badge of honor. Getting totally crap-faced and doing things you regret or get yourself or others hurt is somehow fun. Drinking as a social crutch. Good lord, can people not handle social situations without booze? And no one sees this as problematic. Drinking overall. A lot of people I know probably drink too much and too often to be considered healthy. And boy, do people get upset at the idea of not being able to drink for an extended period. I've actually heard women cite one of the main reasons they don't want to start having kids yet is the inability to drink for 9 whole months. If the idea of not being able to drink for a few weeks or at an event causes you serious distress, then you have a drinking problem. I'm disgusted how accepted this is.